in the cosmos and calm down, everybody. Okay. Wednesday, November 16th at noon, current events. It looks like we may have a few things to discuss. Wednesday, November 16th, by then, there could be a new Israeli government with fascist racists as part of the government. And there may be a new American government, Senate, House lining up. So that's November 16th, my current events class, Wednesday at noon. The next one will then be November 30th. Friday, November 18th, I'm teaching the Friday noon Torah study class, which is going to be fun.
What class? I didn't hear that.
There's a standard Friday noon Torah study class through Wilshire Boulevard, and I am being the teacher November 18th.
Yay.
Is it different than this class? I'm a little confused. I'm sorry.
Oh, yes, it is totally different. As a matter of fact, I make up a new schedule just so that, we can. There is no repeat. There's no repeat from Thursday evening's posting to Friday noon teaching to Saturday morning's Chevra Torah. Thank God the Torah has lots of midrash and stuff to work with. To mention,
Rabbi, can I ask you something?
can you wait 1 second, please?
Okay, all right.
In a far more serious manner, Joy Cohn's funeral will be this week. It will be private, and there will be something like a shloshim 30 days after that, which will be a public event to celebrate Joy's life. So just to be aware, the funeral this week. Now, this is going to require serious listening, and I'm sorry to do this on a Saturday. Serious listening. Kevin Cohn's daughter, Alexi, is being bat mitzvah November 19th. Kevin is a full-time regular. Oh, he's on the iPhone. I got to be careful what I say. Kevin is not such a bad person. And that day, November 19th, I will be broadcasting Chevra Torah from Irmis campus. It'll be on the same Zoom link. It'll be at 9 o'clock in the morning. Nothing changes, except I'm a little bit wary. I hope that all the technicals can be done. So just to know that Saturday morning, November 19th, I'm going to be broadcasting Chevra Torah from the Irmis campus. With fingers crossed that all should go well. Okay, so just tickle it in your calendars if there happens to be any kind of a problem.
But is it live for others, or only you will be there?
You know what, Steve? May I say, with no hesitation, if you want to drop by, it's going to be Zoom. But if you want to sit next to me and handle the electronics, not such a big deal.
I just want to say thank you so much.
Oh, that is iPhone Kevin. Yes. Okay, we're going to make this happen, Kevin. We're going to make it happen. It's too big of a simcha. Okay?
Yes, thank you so much. I'm driving my daughter right now to chair. So I have you on mute and not my face, but thank you.
Super. Okay. Are there other checking ins that we can do? Donna, you're just waving your hands around. I always watch you because you have stuff to teach me. Anything else?
May I say, please? Everybody pray for me because I might get to play the piano at the Naval Hospital for Mr. Cohen, Chaplain Cohen. Cohen's going to arrange that.
Yes.
Wow, what a big deal.
Super. Oh, Donna Nadell says, I'm going to be in Cantor Gurney's office. So if anyone wants to bring Cindy a pickled herring or, no, I don't know. But but I'm going to be sitting quietly in that office broadcasting to the world. Okay. Thank you. So we're jumping right in, moving rapidly forward. Genesis 18:16, the Plout 124, WRJ 89. Plout 124. Hello. Hi, Plout. I was speaking last night with Joanne Seneko about Gunther Plout because several things are happening. Last night, Shoshana Dweck's daughter spoke at the synagogue in St. Paul, Minnesota, the Reformed congregation there on behalf of Women Who Reform Judaism. I mentioned that to Joanne, and Joanne said, "That's my synagogue." And she grew up there, and Gunther Plout was her rabbi when she was a kid. And so I said to her, because I'm always looking for gossip, how was Gunther as a congregational rabbi? Lisa, what did she say? Stiff? Unapproachable?
Not terrific with kids.
Oh, okay. Something like that. Okay. But he does well with the Torah. So I guess that's a good thing. Now, we're looking at, on page 124, we're looking at Genesis 18:16. The men went up from there and gazed down upon Sodom. Abraham going along with them to send them off. You know the background, right? The angels had come, the three visitors had come, spoken to Abraham and Sarah. They served a treif meal, a little bit of milk and a little bit of meat. They served to the angels, but the rabbi said, "Don't worry, angels don't eat." So that took care of they really did. They said that. That took care of that particular problem. And then we have the notification that Sarah is going to give birth, that she will have a child. And on verse 15, I have to just share with you the verse 15, a little bit back. Sarah then denied it. "Oh, I didn't laugh. I didn't laugh." And she said, "I didn't laugh." But God said, "But you did laugh." Problem. The Hebrew doesn't say God said. The Hebrew just says, "And he said, no, you did laugh." So this gives the rabbis, who are always looking for a way to spend 6 years, plenty of time to argue over whether Abraham said that to Sarah. Sarah, his wife, "Sarah, you did laugh." And the translator said, "God said you did laugh." Okay, here is a test for the biblically wise among you. Sukasa, I expect a good answer. When was the other time that God spoke with Sarah?
When, may I speak? When she was, the handmaid was banished and,
No.
nope, I'm wrong.
Answer? Never.
You're
Never.
smart.
This would be the only time that God spoke with Sarah. And so the rabbis get very, very concerned. Is Sarah a prophet that she can hear the word of God? Unresolved, but the translator resolved it without telling us that it's a scientific guess. Okay, we don't know who said, "Yes, you did laugh." Last night during services, while Don Gurney was singing magnificently, one voice rang out.
What a voice.
individually. And I tried to control it as best I could by putting a hood over her face.
Oh, no.
And Don said, no, she's right. And all I wanted to do was dig a hole in the ground.
I was right.
You were right. Right on, Mama.
So in any event, finding out who said what is really important. Now let's go on. I have something else here. And Tamara, I hope you won't be too upset with me. The men went up from there and gazed down upon Sodom. Vayashtifu al Panei Sodom. The translation, gazed down, Vayashtifu al Panei Sodom. First of all, the rabbis are filled with comments that lahashkif is different than lirot. Lahashkif is to see negative things. They find the use of that term, Rashi and Ben Ezra agree that it's used when you're vayashkifing, you are looking at negative things. Stanley, who now with the second bar mitzvah can say anything he wants, Vayashkifu al Panei Sodom, the angels looked into the faces of Sodom. That's how I would like it to go. That's me. I found it nowhere else. Is it okay, Tamara? Can I get away with it?
It's more than okay. It's wonderful. You don't usually have panim associated with the place or with the place. So yeah, that's really wonderful.
Okay, so we're writing a new Torah commentary here. But what I would like to believe that the men, the angels, the messengers, whoever left Abraham and looked into the faces of the people of Sodom. And that's when they were judged. Okay? That's how I would like to read that, but that's just me.
Rabbi.
Avraham,
Rabbi.
Imam L'Shalcham. And Abraham walked with them to see them on their way.
Rabbi.
I'm sorry, who? I don't see a hand.
Rabbi, it's Brad.
Oh, Brad, okay.
Sodom and Gomorrah, the cities of the plain, right?
Yes.
So there's doesn't the Bible constantly make contrast between lower places and more elevated places, the elevated places being more divine, more, as opposed to the plain being sinful?
I can't comment on that, Brad. Every once in a while you ask me a question to which I don't have the answer. I don't know that. Let me think for a second. I can tell you this. You know this much more than I. The high places are always places of worship for every religious group, whatever idolaters, polytheists, that if you do archaeology on high places in Israel today, you will dig down through layer after layer after layer of indications that this was used as a sacred site. Like trees, tall trees have the same thing. So there is something to heights as being spiritual, but as to whether the people who live on the heights are more moral than people who dwell on the plains, I'm sorry, I can't comment on that. I don't know. We can do a little bit of exploring. I don't know that. Abraham is famous for hospitality. Do you remember that the three messengers come or the angels or the people. And Abraham does what any good host would do. He sends his wife into the kitchen to cook, which I think is lovely. Now, the second part is right here. When your guests leave, don't just see them to the door and wave them on their way. The rabbis take from this example, go out with them a few steps, walk outside a little bit with them, and say goodbye there. A true host doesn't just take them to the door, shut the door, and go on with life. A true host accompanies the guest a little bit. I have to say that we encountered that in Israel a lot. And I never really gave much thought to it. But very often people would even walk out onto the street, walk where we had our car parked or whatever, and see us off. And Abraham is the epitome of hospitality and known for that. I want to share with you a sforno, a commentary. It says, and Abraham walked with them, sent them on their way. Sforno comments. Abraham was constantly involved in fulfilling mitzvot. All right, Bible scholars, what's the mild problem here? Steve?
There weren't any mitzvot yet.
Okay, but having set that aside, remember that later on, Isaac is going to go to the yeshiva Hashem ve'ever. He's going to go to a rabbinical academy after the Akedah. You're going to then say to me, hey, Stan, there weren't any rabbinic academies. And I'm going to say irrelevant. He went there anyway. Okay, so Abraham was constantly busy with good deeds and fulfilling all of the mitzvot, including seeing guests off and to accompany them beyond the entrance of the house. If Abraham saw that God had revealed the divine plans for Sodom to Abraham, Abraham would have understood that the performance of such deeds, good deeds, results in gaining a more intimate relationship with God. I'm going to put this into modern language. Mitzvah goreret mitzvah. The performance of one good deed, fulfilling the commandment, opens the possibility for doing more good deeds. The most important reward we can get for doing a mitzvah is to be provided with the opportunity to do another mitzvah. And the idea being here that Abraham gained additional favor in God's eyes by accompanying his guests a little bit on the way. And because of that, his relationship with God was strengthened. Okay, Maris, Harv, whoever.
Rabbi, I don't want to jump in front of you, but
Wait, go ahead.
So I want to go back to the men rising and looking out on the faces of Saddam.
Yes.
It strikes me that if they're looking at the faces, they're not looking at the souls, the innermost thoughts of those in Sodom. And it seems like there's a parallel between that and the fact that Abraham is walking these men on their way, supposedly to do a mitzvot, when in fact, they're walking them on their way back to a place of sinfulness. He's walking them back to a place of sinfulness. And that seems like a dichotomy to me.
Okay, I would have to say that I have again done what I do so very well, express myself unclearly. What I meant by gazing into the face was what you called gazing into the soul. Okay, that's what I meant. Did I not say that? Yeah, but that's what I intended. That he really saw them for who they were. So I totally agree with you that the messengers, angels, guests perceived the evil that was in the hearts and souls of the people of Sodom and Gomorrah, and there would be no doubt as to what's going to happen from their perspective. From their perspective. Are we okay on that? And I apologize for not being complete. Okay? The next verse, which is verse 17, chapter 18, page 124. It's one of the strangest, for me anyway, one of the strangest verses in the Torah. There are a lot of strange verses. This is a strange verse. God then thought, should I hide from Abraham what I am doing? Yet Abraham is certain to become a great and populous nation, and through him all nations here shall be blessed. For I have selected him. So verse 20, God tells Abraham. And then verse 21, the opening two words with a hyphen. Erdana. Abraham, Erdana. That's expressed as a request. Na is very often a Hebrew meaning of please. Erdana, I will go down, please, which is better translated as let me go. God is asking Abraham to let God go down to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. What's going on here? God then thought, should I hide from Abraham? The Hebrew chooses an interesting word for hide. Once again, I feel the strangeness of this, like I'm not quite sure what the authors had in mind. Va'avraham, right? Va'adonai amar, hamachaseh ani me'avraham asher ani oseh. Should I cover over? Should I cover over from Abraham that which I am doing? Please relate to that verse, Sukasa. You have your hand up, then Risa.
I think he's sort of, I don't think God is asking Abraham's permission. I think he's sort of thinking out loud, kind of saying, well, let me see, should I go down there and see where the havoc is really going on before I make my decision? I don't think he's asking Abraham for permission.
He's contemplating.
Okay, thank you. Risa?
I think that is the concept that's going to separate Noah and Abraham, because Abraham basically in this little thought is given permission to negotiate.
So God, it's interesting. God opens up the possibility of negotiation by raising this question. And you're saying that in the story of the flood, we don't have God saying, hey,
Right.
should I let Noah know what I intend to do so that we might talk about it?
Right. There was no conversation. And here there is.
I have such trouble now because I keep thinking of Bill Cosby, which
Yeah.
I shouldn't do and I
Yeah.
hate to do and I don't want to do. But the first record I ever heard of Bill Cosby was God speaking to Noah. Noah, what? Noah, this is God. Right. And then you hear Noah, Fuba, 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 as he's sawing the timbers. It was a great record. I hate him. Okay, but Risa, that's a good insight. That by saying this, God is inviting a conversation. I like that. God is inviting a conversation. By the way, it says, Va'adonai Amar. The word Amar means said. It doesn't say to whom. To whom did God say, should I cover up what I'm doing from Abraham? So the rabbis answered, no big deal. You see, there is a kitchen cabinet of angels that always hang around with God. And they didn't call it kitchen, but you know what I mean. He had an inner group. It's like everything else. Yeah, big deal. You're an angel, but you're not part of the kitchen cabinet. Even angels have relationship troubles. So God says to this kitchen cabinet, or God says to God, that we're looking at God's thoughts. Either way, the possibility. Okay, I see a hand. One, Donna.
I just wanted to ask you about an analogy of angels are messengers, and they are here to serve us. They're here to serve God, but they're here to serve us. And the thing about you talking about talking to God. Well, my gosh, I've been talking to God since not myself, since I was 5 years old, very young, because there was no one else there to talk to. We were working, and I was safe, but anyway, and the nanny. But the thing about it is, I did talk to, and we're like, okay, Lord, what about this? And one day, coming home from
Okay, Donna,
yes, I want to answer me then.
Donna, let's save that kind of a story. But the question is a good one. This whole notion of speaking to God, hearing God speak to us. For me, that expression is a metaphor. A metaphor means, in this case, it's a way of describing that which could not otherwise be understood. A metaphor can help flesh out an experience.
So may I ask another quick question about angels?
No, let's hold angels.
Okay.
Then we'll start singing Shalom Aleichem. Shalom Aleichem. No, I'm not doing it.
Thank you.
Have any of you read Heschel's book, The Prophets? It's a big book. It is one of the most worthwhile books a seeking Jew could ever read. It's not so technical that it would blow you away. It's just long. But Heschel grapples with this whole notion of God speaking. What is a prophet? And what does it mean to claim to speak in God's name? And it drives me back to one of my most important insight passages in the book of Jeremiah. When Jeremiah cries out, "My innards are on fire. I cannot not speak what I feel to be the truth, God's message or whatever." And for me, God speaking is this fire burning within us that wants us to do something which really needs to be done. Behavioral, justice, love. But I recommend, if you have a few weeks, to get Heschel's book, The Prophets. I taught it at the university level. It was a semester course based on the one book. It's just that good. God said to somebody or to himself, "Should I cover over from Abraham what I'm about to do?" And Abraham is going to be this goy gadol, the nivruchuvo, such an important descriptive. It isn't enough for the descendants. I'm preaching, I hear it. It isn't enough for the descendants of Abraham to be a goy gadol va'atzum, a great and mighty people. No. The goal of being a great and mighty people is so that you might become a blessing for the world. So many people lose that linkage. So when I hear people saying, "Fabulous, Israel is has one of the most powerful militaries in the world," I wait for the second half of the sentence so that Israel might bring the world blessing. And we forget that. Let's talk about ourselves. Wilshire Boulevard Temple is one of the greatest synagogues in America. Something's missing from that statement. What is it? Wilshire Boulevard Temple is one of the greatest temples in the world, in the country, so that it can do wonderful things and bring blessings. And reaching that greatness is what I think Wilshire does and must do better. But that's
Hello.
all about. I see one hand. People are beginning to throw rocks at me. I understand that.
Yes.
Steve, go ahead.
I was going to say, in the case of Israel, you can't do good for the world unless you exist. Don't they have to get past step one first? I mean, the primary focus of this great military is right now to ensure that the existence of the state, so that ultimately it might do these things. But if you're wiped out, you can't do anything.
I agree with you. We'll save that for the current events class. I agree with you. But even the survival has to have a greater purpose. I believe. Ray says, being emeritus is empowering. I may be afraid to go out on the streets now. Okay. If anything happens to me the next couple of weeks, you will know why. Okay.
Oh my
Eric,
God. God forbid.
Eric,
Hello?
you have your hand up, Eric.
Oh, God created the stars as a guide for us, like the Jewish people are the stars, and they're the navigators for society.
Right on.
Because I remember a planetarium show in the Bishop Museum when I was there, and the Polynesians guided themselves throughout the South Pacific by just looking at the stars. So the
Yes.
stars were the navigating aid to things. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, thank you. Yes. Okay.
Bless his heart.
So Abraham is certain to become a great nation, so that through him the nations of the earth shall be blessed. I have selected him. Why? Again, that Abraham gets selected is lovely. But there's a purpose. Do you remember? Oh, I'm doing the thinking. Mordecai says to Esther what? When she begins to wonder whether she could get killed by going in to see Ahasuerus. What does he say to her?
Don't tell anyone you're a Jew, a Hebrew.
No. Perhaps it is for this reason that you have risen to the
That you've been
throne.
chosen.
Okay? It's great that you're queen, Esther. But there's a reason, and the reason is larger than the fact that you're the queen.
Right on, yeah.
Okay? The theme is the same here. It's connected. For I've selected him so that he may teach and thou teach and do what is right and just, so that all will be fulfilled. When you think of Sodom and Gomorrah, what do you think of?
Evil.
God's mercy.
Mm.
What do you think of when you think of Sodom and Gomorrah?
God's mercy.
Correct.
It's interesting.
Yeah, because those when the rebellious people, when the Korach was dumped into the earth, it's like almost the same, similar to the things of Sodom and Gomorrah.
I remember seeing a movie about the mafia. It was called Gomorrah, and
Yeah.
I thought that was very biblical. And then Sodom and Gomorrah also bequeathed to the world sodomy, which is, such a lovely thing to emerge from a biblical text. I want to read and close with this, a quotation sent to me by Mara. Oh, you may recognize this. This is a quote that she sent me. What strikes me most on reading this passage this year is the picture of the relationship. God and Abraham fundamentally disagree on what is appropriate, and Abraham argues stridently for his position. God could very well have not said anything, but ignored the conversation. And Abraham, this is good, could likewise have just ignored God's statement and walked away from God. But it seems they were both committed to the relationship with one another. And when you are committed to a relationship, you talk with one another. Most importantly, the Holy One made the decision not to hide or conceal, but rather to share, to meet, to talk, to listen. Ladies and gentlemen, I close with this. What an interesting thing to say to a couple about to get married. To commit to a relationship, to share, to meet, to talk, to listen. Sukasa, that's not what marriage is. That's what marriage could be, should be. Forgive me, not what it is. I deal with the real world. But I love the picture, and Mara, thank you for sending this, of both sides being committed, even though they really disagreed. You can't believe that Abraham will walk away from this negotiation, 50 righteous, 40 righteous, 30 righteous, 20 righteous, 10 righteous, that Abraham walks away feeling good. But he can feel good about one thing, right? God is listening. In our relationships with people, you don't have to agree. But it surely helps if you listen. Right? It surely helps if you listen. We're going to go to Kaddish now. And Kaddish for me today will include 11/11/11, Armistice Day, the millions who died in defense of democracy. And forgive me for my soft-heartedness, there were millions who died in defense of tyranny. People died. Millions and millions of people died. One of the things I read about Veterans Day is a question, what are we doing with our veterans? How much do people really care? Last night there was a Veterans Day observance in Wilshire, and the few of us veterans who were there, average age was like 1,015. Old. There were no young veterans. There aren't that many young. There are some Jewish veterans. Now, the army, the military has changed. It's a professional army. How about if we spend some time thinking about how we can still reach out to the veterans world, where there is mental illness, alcoholism, drug, homelessness. There are serious problems in the veterans community. So while we're thinking about poppies, the red poppies, the British thing, yeah, my father PTSD. I'm not going to make a big sermon on this. I could. But what are we doing ourselves to reach out individually and just do something supportive of VA, whatever, to really show that we understand that some people in our 330 million, some really paid a significant price. And they should be remembered somehow by us.
I'm writing a song for the veterans, Rabbi.
Okay. So those who have passed away during the past month include the following: Rachel of Talion, Rebecca Broad, David Dragon, Shirley Baskin Familian, Latifa Gadaushi, Magdalena Gilbert, Howard Goldfeder, Harvey Caden, Barry Robert Katz, Shuli Katz, Regina Kleiner, Sidney Gary Morantz, Philip Marber, Reza Nachshin, Susan Peckel, Ephraim Rudin, Mordechai Shlush. And the anniversaries of the deaths of the following occurred during this past week: Alma Abrams, Morris Abrams, Ted Armel, Jack Oliver Aronson, Chalas Eleni Azizian, Herman Bearwald, Jacob Begelman, Rose Bailey, Rebecca Baker, David Barkin, Goldie Benjamin, Isaac Bergman, Beverly Glassow Berman, Marwan Bernards, Jean Russell, Esther Caden, Francine Chernoff, David Cohn, Daryl Colford, and Cooper, Jerusha Rebecca Darvish, Gary Ann Dryden, Jordan, Michael Ehrlich, Rose Ehrlich, David Eisenberg, Harriet Eport, Bertrand Mark Feinberg, Edith Barron Fearman, Morton Fearman, Gary Finkel, Sima Frankel, Bertha Friedman, Charles Gerber, Joshua Gerson, Harry Golden, David Golden, Nathaniel Goldstein, Jean Gordon, Minnie Gordon, Charlie Grace, Henry Gray, Day Allen Hanover, Jerome Heilbronn, Eric Hershkovitz, Dora Hodes, Clarice Jacobs, Iraj Kahanasa, David Caper, Richard Kirshner, Morton Kleinberg, Robert Cohn, Haskell Kramer, Saul Kupchik, Sheb Solanda, Francis Levy, Betty Lindner, Jane Litwin, Lillian Laurie Arthur Malin, Sonia Esther Margolis, Arlene Miller, Bauman Misagian, Myron William Morris, Dorothy Osman, Shirley Pasternak, Rona Paymer, Dorothy Schwartz Petroy, Isaac Pressman, Isidore Pugach, Jake Puro, Tamara Rand, Jean Rappaport, Maida Reese, Edward Maurice Regal, Hermo Rigero, Lillian Ryan, Bella Reamer, Rosangela Lucian Rinsky, Arnold Rosen-Swide, Alan Rawson, Nathan Sachs, Sarah Sager, Edith Scholhoff, Linda Scher, William Sornoff, Paul Spindler, Louis Stark, Mayo Stark, Jack Stillerman, Henry Eulendorf, David Westheimer. I apologize to those whose names I mispronounced. We now can insert names in our hearts or out loud, the names of those who we are also remembering at this time.
For this month, my motion, November 22nd.
I'm sorry?
My motion died on November 22nd, which is actually same day President Kennedy died.
May the memory of all of those who died in defense of the United States, in defense of the state of Israel, and those who died through senseless acts of carnage and terror, the memory of all of those who have no one to say Kaddish for them, we embrace them all. We embrace them all as we join together in Kaddish. Yitgadal, Shemei Rabbah, Yalma, Bra, Beit Yisrael, Ba'agla Vizman Kareem, Amen. Yehi Barach Olam Maya Yitbarach V'Yitzhak V'Yitramam V'Yitnaseh V'Yitadar V'Yitaleh V'Yitala Shmei Kudusha La'ela Minna Birchata V'Shirata Dushbachata V'Nechamata Da'miran B'Yalma
Amen.
Lama Rabba Min Shaya V'Chayim Leinu V'Alkol Amen. Oseh Shalom V'Yamav
Shalom Aleinu.
Amen.
Amen.
May God, who makes peace in the high places, make peace in our hearts, make peace in our homes, make peace in the household of Israel, make peace among all the families and nations of earth. And let us say,
Amen.
Amen, amen.
Amen, amen.
I would like just to read, "Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight, or the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting, gave proof
Through the night that our
our
flag was
flag
still there.
was still there." Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave,
Yet wave,
or the land
and of the free,
and the home?
of the very, very brave.
Shabbat shalom. Love you guys.
Shabbat shalom.
Don't go.
Shabbat shalom. Thank